So what are the right mindset of a good Facebook advertiser? Let's talk about it. So today I'm actually reading an article by John Loomer. It's about updating your meta advertising assumptions. And what I like about this article is John shared with us a lot of his mindset, the way he think about and the thought process that he actually carries when he's actually approaching Facebook advertising. I think it's actually a very good article for us to really learn from him. I mean, for those who do not know yet, John Loomer is one of the most respected Facebook advertising guru in the world. So I actually learned a lot from him. On top of my own observations, I really love John's way of, like his obsession on details, that it's really, really amazing on how he does his experiments and all. So today in this article, which I already put the link in the description, there are a few points that I actually drawn out from the article that I wanted to share with you. And I would like to share with you my observation or my own opinion on the points that he pointed out. And hopefully this episode would actually serve as a very good so-called reference for you to understand about the right mindset a Facebook advertiser should actually carry. Now, the first thing that I actually draw out from his article was he said, you have found an efficient system that works for you, but don't forget to update your assumptions. I think this is a very important mindset we must have, because when it comes to, in fact, I used to say when it comes to digital marketing, everything is fluid, right? But in fact, nowadays, like digital marketing and marketing are pretty much blended together. I think it's very important for us to really stay fluid in a lot of things. So what happened to a lot of advertisers is when they actually learn, let's say, when they learn a method or a framework from someone, it's like they had this, like, I have to follow to the bone, and the flexibility they have is kind of like not as much. I mean, when it comes to Facebook advertising, there are a lot of elements that are really changing. First, we have the trend that might be changing from time to time, seriously, consistently, constantly, all the time. So the trend is changing. And then, of course, the other thing is the behavior, the user behavior is changing as well. On top of that, we have this algorithm change, system change, everything. So it's like change everywhere. So we must have the ability to adapt. That's what I always believe as a Facebook advertiser, that we need to have this, like flexibility to experiment. That's why when I actually see somebody ask me these questions, Jason, what are the best way to start running ads on Facebook? What is really the, like the do's and don'ts that we need to carry when it comes to Facebook advertising? The moment I see these questions, I know this person are having a lot of mind blocks that is stopping them from really taking the step. In my opinion, because like a lot of my clients ask me, hey, Jason, how do you learn all these crazy things that that you're showing me? It's like a magic kind of stuff. I mean, all these are actually true trial and errors. It's about you going in, be courageous and be adventurous enough to really go and, dig anything that might find, new different exploration or different discovery. You have to just be courageous to try. The best way to learn Facebook ads, if you ask me, is really to get started. So yeah, okay, so yeah. Now, the second point that I actually have here is, John said, just think about how much has changed during the past few years since iOS 14. Attribution, optimization, and targeting all took a hit as a result of iOS users opting out of tracking. Now, when we talk about this, the moment as we are making this video, we actually received news from Meta saying, all those steps they took, like aggregated event management, domain verification, and all that has been, lifted. I mean, it's no longer needed for any, like for your Facebook advertising account anymore, or your business manager. So it's kind of like a way to tell us that, look, in fact, I believe Facebook has found a workaround to really get the data back as much as they can, despite this iOS 14 issue and all that. So what I'm actually trying to say here is Facebook ads is actually ever evolving, and, just like life, right? So when it comes to any change, you see, that's another thing that I always receive a lot. Whenever there are big changes coming to Facebook advertising, a lot of my audience will come to ask me, Jason, what should I do now? What are the next steps and all this? You see, after going through so many big major changes and all that until today, what I have for you here is very simple. Every change has its reason, and eventually, even Facebook taking the toll, right? Like the iOS 14, they will definitely find a workaround, and everything eventually will be fine. You see, like, I never make a fuss about this iOS 14 issues and all that. You see, a lot of times, it is just us being, how do we call, like anxious being like stirred up, and in fact, the whole situation is not really that bad in most of the time. Just like a lot of people would say, oh, after iOS 14, everything went haywire and down here. It's just because you never really change and update your assumptions and try to find another way. You see, I mean, what I can say here is in most of the cases, in fact, if you adapt, as in like you follow the steps like getting your domain verified, aggregated event, and all this kind of stuff, actually, if you ask me, I would say very minimal change, and up to now, everything is kind of back to normal. We don't really have this misreporting any issue that much anymore. And actually, yeah. So what I want to say here is these kind of big changes are always here to come. They always come to us, big changes and all that. So sometimes we just need to wait. And instead of like reacting right away, and, oh, what should I do now? Oh, let's do some changes and all that. Let's observe and monitor key metrics. That's what I want to say. Instead of like, we got to change and all these crazy things must come, right? So no. Right. And the third point I actually captured from John's article here, it says, Meta has removed countless interests and behaviors. The advantage expansion products allows the algorithm to target people outside the detailed targeting lookalike audiences and even custom audiences that you specify. Now, this is actually a very important point where we need to be a little bit open to the so-called the artificial intelligence. So like, for example, AI is definitely going deeper in what we do digitally in anything, just like in this afternoon, when I was working with a client in Thailand, who is actually living in Thailand, but from the state, he does everything using AI right now. He actually created videos using AI. He wrote his ad copy using AI. And I don't know, man, this guy is everything AI. It's crazy. But it's interesting that, because of all this AI, he's able to run his entire operation right on his fingertip. He doesn't really need to really hire a lot of people that he used to do a lot of things. Like, that's the AI side of it. I just want to say, in fact, a lot of people are worried about AI and all that, but I would say this is just part of the process. First, we cannot stop all this crazy AI thing that is coming our way. And what I want to say here is, even though you may not find a fit, or you may, you may not really find an angle to really use the tools, but you just have to always believe that, it's around us. And they're always improving to help us do things better. That's what I think. So when it comes to Facebook advertising, we need to start trusting. We need to test consciously. And of course, we need to build hypotheses based on current scenarios and continue to evolve. It's like, seriously, I think another very important mindset a Facebook advertiser must have is you must have your own framework or your own thought process to really analyze. Just like when it comes to ads analytics, which is something that I do a lot, you need to know what are the numbers to look at and the process and the steps to look at. It's like building SOPs. For any campaign, any business is kind of different. Like for e-commerce, we need to do differently. For lead generation, we need to do the other way, the other kind of set of metrics that we would develop. But it's very important for us to have a process, because when you have a process, you have a guideline, you have a framework. So when the certain changes come, we know what to change. So let's say, for example, now we're depending on AI to do a lot of all this targeting for now, right? So targeting become a variable over here, right? So when the targeting is a variable that we're actually testing right now, we need to watch what are the effect that is, like getting us in terms of like affecting other factors or other variables, so-called, and how do we actually make hypotheses out of it? So it's about having a framework, and that actually keeps you, safe in a way. You don't feel very stirred up and anxious about all these changes and all that. It makes you calm. I think that's a very important thing that we have to look into. So yeah, Meta is pushing. Now, another thing John said, Meta is pushing us more and more towards accepting a more significant role of automation and optimization that is outside our control. So this applies to ad copies and creative and attribution. It is much more hands-off now. I totally agree. Hands-off does not mean giving up control. That's what I want to say. You see, it's about truly understand what to monitor. Like I mentioned just now, it's about building a framework, building a hypothesis, and having a guiding so-called foundation and framework to really understand what is changing and what are you testing from time to time. So it's important to build a solid thought process that I always want to say. When you are building a campaign, you must know how to gain like full control of your campaign. Otherwise, what's the problem? When you are not having a thought process, when you don't have a framework that is guiding you, you jump on things very easily. Like, for example, when a campaign that has been working well for, let's say, 2 weeks, and out of sudden it stops working, what do? So what most people do is, let's freaking kill the campaign right now. It's not working, but hey, what is not working? You get what I mean? What went wrong? Most people never thought of finding out what went wrong. But here's the thing. Look, it has been working well for 2 weeks. Prior to this, it's getting you results and you're happy with the cost. And what does that mean? That means it's working. The campaign is working, the audience targeting is working, the creative is working, the objective is working, everything was working. Just that it stopped working right now, you kill it. You get what I mean? But a lot of people never really thought of going in and dive in and see, oh, actually what really went wrong? How do we actually fix this? How can we learn from this situation to help us gain confidence in whatever we do and slowly build our foundation and thought process so that we would know what to do? This is how we can become more and more calm in handling Facebook advertising. Otherwise, the emotion is going to drive us. And it's a very dangerous thing to drive your campaign emotionally, because you always have emotion. Why? Because what the hell, we're spending money. So when we are spending money, we get afraid. We get, oh, come on, man. Oh, this is not working. It's burning money. But hey, you know, that's what I want to say. Building a thought process is actually very important. So this really is what sets a great marketer apart from normal marketers. And you want to work your way towards becoming really a great marketer for your own business. That's what I want to highlight. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I like this article. It really says a lot about, you know, how to really look at it in a more like a holistic way, the bird eye view. So yeah, great article, John. Love it. So the fifth point, it actually, I captured here. It says, you need to adjust assumptions about what works and what doesn't work. You should revisit those strategies that at one time you'd never consider. Stay fluid. Yes, being open is actually very important. Okay, so yeah, that comes back to the importance of having a guiding framework, because when you have a guiding framework, you know what's working, and when things happen, let's say when the new things are being introduced, okay, you know what you're testing, and you are actually aware of, like, when I'm testing the new creative, for example, so what are the metrics I should be looking at? So how do we actually draw the so-called the whole entire customer journey, as in, like, you know, the action funnel, to know what actually worked? Like, for example, the other day, we actually tested the Advantage Plus creative, which is really recommended by Facebook. So when we actually did that, we saw that, oh, actually the cost per click went down. So when the cost per click went down, what do we call, hypothetically, we should get more conversion, all right? And then we started tracking and say, hey, no, it's actually not the case. So we started to find out, like, what went wrong, right? So, okay, now, first thing first, a lot more clicks came in, but then again, why we don't see a lot more conversion? So we try to find what's happening in between, and we realize that, look, it's actually the, you know, the instant experience, or whatever, the click that happens on Facebook, and the outbound clicks versus the landing page clicks has a really, really big gap. So coming here, we know that, oh, Advantage Plus may get us a lot of clicks, but not all of these clicks are ready to go to the next step. So this is how we know that, okay, this is what's the problem right now, and how do we actually make adjustment according to, okay, now this is what we see now. Let's build new hypothesis, okay, and let's carry on and keep building this to the next step and further. So yeah, it's essentially coming back to the whole thing that I was talking about, which is having a guiding framework, which is very important. Okay, John also said about placement. So the difference now is that the algorithm's sole focus is getting you the most results possible at the lowest cost. It's a placement isn't contributing to those results. The algorithm will adjust in real time and spend less there. I mean, yeah, this is also about observation as well. I mean, before this, I used to tell people that when it comes to placement, we need to have control. But now I think the algorithm is doing so much better in terms of, like, determining what is working and what is not. And because back then, right, Facebook tend to spend a lot more money on audience network because it's a lot easier to get exposure over there. But we don't want that, right? Because these are, you know, audiences that are not really ready to take the action, but it's just being interrupted because of the ads in between games and stuff. But I would say Facebook really did a really good job in terms of, like, really optimizing this. So yeah, this is actually about now keeping the placement option open right now is actually a good move. But of course, if you still want to implement certain restrictions, like you still don't want to go to audience network and whatnot, it is fine. But now at this point of time, it's about observing and, you know, start testing, because you can actually see in the, you know, like the drop down, what do we call that? The breakdown. Yeah, you can actually see whether your which part is really helping you. I mean, then we are able to really, if you want to, you can actually dive deeper. Like, for example, if you know that Facebook feed is really getting you more conversion, dive in. That's how we do it. Okay. And the other thing that John talked about is the broad targeting. So John said, this was a painful adjustment to me. I was always a huge believer in micro targeting. I didn't trust the algorithm to find my ideal audience. So it started getting more and more expensive to reach these small audiences. And now we're talking about broad targeting. I'm not just talking about using big detailed targeting or lookalike audiences. Remove all targeting and let the algorithm work. To be frank, it took me a while to really? Because my account manager always tell me that, Jason, try, go broad. I was like, seriously? But mine is still working, right? Why? I mean, seriously. But you have no idea sometimes, because one thing I want to highlight here is, I was always talking about this to my audience as well. You see, like Facebook advertising is actually becoming intent-based advertising, because Facebook really know what you are likely to do when you're running ads. I mean, it has been there all the time. Like, this is how we choose objective, which the objective is going to define, the outcome of a campaign, right? But it's actually getting even smarter right now. Seriously. So what Facebook does here is this. Like, for example, a lot of people always like to ask me, Jason, how do we find the right people who are likely to buy my product? My answer to you is this. Write your copy and design your ads creative to really simplify and tell your audience about what you are selling and what is in for them, what do you want them to do. Because the moment you do that, you're also making your ad a lot more understandable by the algorithm. So the algorithm will match people who are likely to purchase, because the moment algorithm understand what you sell and what's the offer like, okay, they can definitely match it to people who are likely to buy, because Facebook knows a lot of things, right? They actually have their pixel installed in most of the websites around the world. So if people goes to, let's say, a website looking for like the car dash cam, for example, they know that this guy is interested in dash cam. If they know that your ad is about dash cam, they match. Isn't it beautiful? But that's why a lot of those old strategies are no longer working. I mean, back then, right, in my part of the world, a lot of those advertisers like to hook the audience with some, like non-direct advertising copy saying that, do you feel this? Do you want to, like, do you have this issue and all that? Come on, man, things change. Exactly the reason why we need to talk about this topic right now, because we need to stay fluid, remember? So that is no longer working, because advertisers, I mean, audiences, as in like the people that we are targeting, evolved tremendously through the pandemic, so a lot of things are no longer the same. So this is one of the things that is constantly evolving. So we have to constantly change the strategy. That's one of the reasons why. So yeah, I mean, seriously, broad targeting works so well right now in most of the case, but of course, it's not carved on the stone. I wouldn't say that broad targeting works for everyone, but you need to test consistently, consciously, and on top of that, you need to, keep track on all the numbers. Okay, you need to test. Let's say sometimes we go broad, it might work, but like I said, rubbish in, rubbish out. Are they getting you the right people? Lower cost per click doesn't mean better, like purchasers coming in, or better revenue. So we need to actually strike a balance in between. Remember, back to again, the framework. Knowing the entire business flow is actually very important. Okay, now the 8th point, actually John said here is, we need structure. We create structure for ourselves and true strategies and processes based on tried and true experiences. But we need to treat these strategies and processes as temporary. Love this, John. So exactly back to whatever I say, building a guiding framework, develop the thought process and continue to evolve. But you need to first build a guiding framework and your own thought process. And that's a very important thing as a Facebook advertiser, because without that, we are running ads emotionally and it's bad. But even when we have a thought process and a framework in place, we need to constantly change. That's something that you really have to keep in mind. Okay, so yeah, like what John said as a ramp up over here, he says evolve, update your assumptions, okay, update strategies and processes. And if you don't, you put yourself at risk of becoming obsolete. Amazing. Thank you, John, for a beautiful written article. Seriously, that's what I really believe a good Facebook advertiser, as in like the mindset a good Facebook advertiser must possess. And this is really something that you have to start building for yourself. But of course, if you need help, All right. There will be a link in the description where you can actually reach out to me to discuss about your Facebook advertising problems or anything you want to talk about. And this is a new podcast. If you listen up to now, thank you so much. I mean, for those who know me, I've been actually experimenting on how can I bring more value to the market as in, as a digital marketer. I mean, I'm famous for my Facebook advertising framework and stuff, but I'm actually really a digital marketer that I've a lot of experience in a lot of other things like landing pages and stuff like that. But how do I expand and how do I bring more value? So this is a new podcast that I'm developing. I'm intending to at least hit 100 episodes with this. Marketing with Jason is gonna be a podcast where I'm hoping to do this on a weekly basis at least. Every week I will share one article or a video that I watched or book chapter that I read that bring very good value that we can actually learn from as a digital marketer or as a marketer as a whole. So the topic would not be just about Facebook advertising. In fact, the next one I'm intending to talk about YouTube marketing, which is something that I'm really passionate about because in fact, in the past few years, I built my business around my YouTube channel. And we want to talk about how can we actually develop the right mindset for YouTube marketing as well. So yeah, of course, like things like marketing ideas, anything that if you have something that you have read that you really believe it changed your life or the way you look at marketing as a whole, please share it with me. And yeah, if you like this podcast, remember to share it to your friends and subscribe. And I look forward to see you in the next one.